This video is going to take you through this Wavy Op Art project. So what you did so far is you laid out the design, and we already went through how to lay out the design, so now it's just a matter of adding the color. So the next step is to take your two colors that you picked, and you are going to start applying the color just very, very quickly through this design. So the design goes like this, where the inside part's going to have color, but then this ring here is not going to have any color. You're going to leave it white, so you try to leave it clean. This ring here is going to have color, and then this ring around here is going to be plain white, and then you have this ring of color. So it comes in, it comes out, you won't see it the entire time. So you're going to start off by first laying out your two colors. Now the way it's going to be arranged, and let me show you the sample again, the way it's going to be arranged is that this section right here is all going to be done in your first color, and this whole section right here are going to be done in your second color. So you're going to go color 1, color 2, color 1, color 2, color 1, color 2, color 1, color 2. So you can start by just laying these out. So you can take your one color and you can just go really, really, really lightly. You want to blend this later on, but right now we're just kind of marking out the color. And notice I'm using the side of the pencil, and I'm really putting my hand very far away from the pencil point, and I'm just marking it out. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to mark this out with your first color all the way around, and then when you're ready you can go with your second color. So again, you're going to skip. This is going to be your second color. This is your first color. And again, I'm just going really, really lightly. So I'm going to quicken this process up so you don't have to watch. Okay, so now that you have this all laid out where your colors are going to be, now we're going to start working on this, creating this illusion of value. So on the edge here, it's going to be really, really dark on either side, and then the middle is going to be light. And then we're going to blend it. So you can see again in the sample, you can see that the direction of the lines are always going to go side to side, the strokes, okay? And over here it's very, very dark, and then we kind of blended it so it's very, very light in the middle. So if we refer to our value scales here, so this is what we're doing. We're going from very, very dark, bringing it to light, but then we're going from light to dark. So we're actually doing it from dark to light, but then we're going to go from light to dark. So that's how that's going to go. So you're going to start with, one of your colors. I'll start with green, and you can pick one of your spaces. This middle one, I'm going to start with this middle one because it's bigger and it's a little, it's kind of straightforward, as opposed to when we get into these tinier spaces, and even when we get into these little corners, like we're going to be having to handle them differently. So I'm going to start with this one right here. So the first thing you should do after you have this kind of laid out, you can also double check, just make sure that this isn't too dark. Sometimes you end up coloring this in, and if you go too dark, you can actually just take an eraser and lighten it up a little bit. So if you feel like there's some spots that might be a little bit too dark, you can just lighten them up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make this little, really, really hard little zigzag coming down, and then we're going to refine it. So I'm going in tiny, tiny little circles, and I'm pushing really hard. I'm making this as dark as possible. Notice I'm holding my pencil very, very close to the point because I want to put a lot of pressure on it. Okay, and I want that space to be really well defined and well colored in. So like when I color in like this, like far away, I don't really have that much control. Whereas here, when I hold it really close, I can put a lot of pressure on that point, and I can make sure that it's pretty well controlled. So you're going to do that on one side, And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Because right here, right on against these lines, the color is going to be very, very dark. Okay, so I'm going in little tiny ovals. This space should not be very wide. It's only going to be, you know, like a fraction of an inch. It's going to be a tiny little space. So now the next thing is you are going to now go a little bit wider and a little darker. So I'm going to go back over it. And this is probably, if you think about this whole thing, this is going out about a quarter of the way. Okay, and then I can also go with another section a little bit lighter. And I'm just going back over it and I'm not pushing very hard. So you're going to see these lines, these variations of color, of tone, right, and of value. Like this here, you can definitely see there's a line coming down, and here you can see there's a line coming down, and there's even a line over here. So now what you're going to do, you're going to go back over those lines in these little ovals and these strokes that are going back and forth. Once again, don't go up and down. You want to go back and forth. And you just keep going over it until it looks like you kind of got rid of that space. And it's a matter of, you know, you have to be a little patient. It doesn't take a, you're not going to get it all at once. And then when I get over here, I'm barely pressing. I'm not pressing hard at all. And I'm just blending that in. Now this is something that we were working on when we were working on our value scales. So this should kind of be something that, you know, you feel a little comfortable with, please. And if you don't feel comfortable with it, don't work on this page. Just grab a fresh piece of paper and do like a little rough draft if you need to. So eventually, as you can go back and forth, you're going to see that those lines coming down are gone, because you're just going to keep on blending it in. And again, I'm barely even touching the paper. Now for some people, if this ended up getting too dark in here to your taste, like this is fine, even if it ended up a little darker than what I had before. As long as there's a nice variation. You can try to take the white and you can kind of blend it. Now I'm using Crayola pencils. Crayola pencils, the white won't really make a huge difference, but if you're using something of a higher grade pencil like Prismacolor, you might find there's a bigger degree of difference. So in this video, you might not even see that there's much of a change, but if I look at it this, and you know, really, it really does blend the color a little bit. So that's what you're going to be doing. So I'm going to do this one more time. And you can always rewind this video and watch again until you feel comfortable. So this one, you know, you go up about a quarter of the way to the middle. You don't want this to be too big. And you're going to go a little dark, you know, darker than this, but lighter than this. Now I'm going to go with another one, another layer. And this one's lighter. So as I'm going to the middle, it gets lighter and lighter. So again, you start seeing these lines in here, and so you want to work on those in these little ovals. I find that as you do this, you start getting a little bit more comfortable. So, and you're going to have a lot of opportunity. You're going to be filling this whole page in, so. You should start to feel like you're kind of getting used to it. Now I know I mentioned the white colored pencil, and you can certainly put that on there. But if you think that you went a little dark and you see a transition, and you know, you can either, number one, maybe hit this a little bit darker so it kind of blends in. But if you don't want to even make it darker, another alternative is using your eraser. I find that the eraser on the end of your pencil, as long as you have a nice soft one, this will remove some of the pencil. It'll lighten it up, but it won't you won't be able to erase it entirely. So this might be a nice tool to use. Okay, so you can kind of see what's happening there, and you can always go back and refine it. I'm actually going to add some white and see what that does. And you keep working on it, keep putting more color down and erase some areas until it should look like a nice transition, a nice smooth transition without any waves, meaning, you know, lines coming down here. The only waves in this wavy op art are the lines coming down the middle. That's going to be really dark, but you shouldn't see any other transitions. It should be nice and smooth. So if I zoom back out, that looks pretty good. Okay, so that's what I want to see. So I'm going to be going with this in the green, and then I can go and do the other color. So I do want to talk about right in here, this corner, or this center. So the same rules are going to apply, right? So you have this little stripe of color here, and also on the other side. So you're actually, instead of coloring in like a curved rectangle, you're actually coloring in like a cylinder? Not a cylinder. I'm thinking of a cone. You're doing like a cone. Okay, so that's fine. So when you come in here, there's really not going to be a lot of room for transition. Like probably right in the center, you won't really get that really, really light shade. So again, you're working the same way. You're going to go with that dark, but this piece, this side is going to be much smaller, this space. You're working much smaller, and it should kind of taper down. So it's going to be a little bit wider here, and then it's going to get smaller and smaller until it kind of blends. And the same thing here. So it's although these lines are kind of getting thinner and thinner, you know, these areas of variation of shading. And then you're just going to go back really lightly. What you want to kind of create the illusion of is there being like a band, oops, I was outside of the picture, a band of light right in the center there. And you can see that these dark areas are a bit bigger here, wider, and then they get more and more narrow and more close together. And it's okay if the center ends up being just really dark, that's okay. All right, I got a little spot right there I colored outside of. Okay, and go back over with the white and see what this looks like. Okay, so that's that. And the last thing I'll talk about are these little pieces over here, you know, if it ends up going outside of the picture. So this is going to be my line. This is going to be my dark spot. You know, this is going to be that really, really dark area right here. But just to kind of give you an idea, this, if we went off the page, it would go up and then it would come down here. So we're not even going to see this wave outside of the picture. We're only going to see this little section. So you don't have to you're not going to go dark over here. You're not going to get it dark until it would be over here, but you're not going to see it because this is the outside of the picture. So the reason why I'm illustrating it that way is you're only going to show a section of this value change. It's going to go real dark here, like we've done. And since this band of ribbon is kind of big, this could be a little bit bigger than this. So notice I kind of made it a bit wider, that band of dark. And now I'm going to go, like I did before, I'm going to make it a little lighter. And then over here, I'm going to make it a little lighter yet. And then I'm going to blend it. So you'll see that I'm not going to make it back. This line here is not going to be dark. It's just going to blend into the light. Because we're only showing in this part of the picture, we're only showing a section of this ribbon. Okay. So if you look at the samples over here, the finished one, you could see that this ribbon went dark and then it was light and then it started to go dark again right at that little point there. Because if we looked at the whole picture, you know, it would have been dark like right there. Like if we wanted to finish up this ribbon, right? So it would be dark right here. So, and like over here, this is really dark and then it goes lighter, dark, and then again, it gets cut off a bit. Okay, let's see. All right. So the inside, like I said, right in the center, it's okay if it all kind of gets dark in the center there. That's completely fine. All right. So I'm gonna just finish this up. I'll do the whole project. I'll put myself on, you know, time lapsed, so you can watch this all being done in really crazy fast motion. Okay, now I'm done coloring. Okay, you can always go back and touch up as you need to. But the very last thing you do is that we're going to take our Sharpie marker and we're going to go over all our lines. So again, here's the sample. You're going to use a ruler for the straight lines, and of course you don't have to use a ruler for the rounded spaces. Be careful when you use a ruler against a Sharpie. You just want to make sure you're on the line first, and when you draw it, make sure you're not sliding the ruler around, because you're going to end up with some ink on that side of the side of the ruler. So you just got to be very careful when you're working. If you take rubbing alcohol, and you can take a paper towel and you can clean the side of your ruler of all that extra Sharpie when you're done. But if I go like this, if I rub my finger on it, you can see that there's some that end up on here. So you don't want that to get caught in on your paper. So you just got to be careful not to like slide your ruler. You know, I tend to like lift it. All right. And so there's my straight lines. And then for your curved lines, you're just going to go over it. Yeah, drawing them out. When you go over it with a Sharpie, it's nice because if there's any like edges that you colored that, you know, you might have colored outside the line, a sliver or something like that, it covers it up. But it also really gives you a nice defining line where those spaces are. Now with Sharpie, I tend to use, right now I'm working on a desk and this is just construction paper. So a good rule of thumb, you know, to protect your table or wherever you're working, whatever surface you're working on, is to, you know, when you're working with Sharpie, to put down like a newspaper or a few paper towels or something underneath where you're working, because it might bleed through. It might show up on whatever surface that you're working on. So if this is done in a sketchbook, you may want to take like a piece of newspaper or magazine or something and put it underneath the surface you're working on, you know, that you're drawing on, you know, underneath that paper, because it'll protect the pages underneath it. All right. So, of course, when you finish this, you can also cut this out. You can take it off of your sketchbook. You can cut this out, cut out the square. When I was working up here, you could see I colored outside of the lines, and that's okay because I'm going to take a pair of scissors and cut this out. Okay. So if you happen to notice that your white spaces are all marked up, you know, you want to try to take an eraser, hopefully it's pencil that you can lift up, and you want to keep it kind of clean. Just like that. All right, so that's a done deal. Now, if you are done, and this is just an extra, if you want to extend your project a bit. So in these spaces right here, you can put another color. You can put another 2 colors. So a couple of ways to think about it. You can grab 2 more colors. So you could pick one cool and one warm, a different warm and a different cool, and you can try them out and you can explore the ones that you want to use. So let's say I'm going to use this as my warm and this as my cool. So what I can do is I can do the same process. Now I can put the orange maybe to share the space with the red. So I would have this whole space would be a cool color, a warm color. And then I could put the blues here, and then this whole cone would be a cool color cone. And then I can, you know, just keep on working. Now, a way to make it look a lot more contrasty is if I took the cool and I put it here. So if I put the blue here and I put the orange here. So you can fill in these spaces as you want as well. I will be I will have a sample of that as well. In fact, the colors that I just picked is probably the ones that I'm gonna have to finish it up with, and I'll put it in Classroom, my finished process or my finished project. And that, of course, is just an extra credit. It's just like an extra thing if anybody wants to work above and beyond getting this done. But if you need the total time to just work on this, so be it. Don't worry about the other colors. But for those people that might want to go a little bit further with the project, once again, you could put 2 colors inside the spaces, okay? Inside the white spaces, just how you did with the other 2 colors. All right, enjoy, good luck.